Hi, my name is Daniel Matthews, a 3AF board member, and I am a creative producer at International Secret Agents. I'm with the Asian American Advertising Federation, or 3AF. We are the primary go-to resource when it comes to Asian advertising, Asian marketing, and the power of the Asian American consumer. During this COVID-19 pandemic, we have organized a series of virtual webinars to help our community during this unprecedented time. The series covers a wide range of topics related to the pandemic and the impact on our Asian American community. We are organizing these webinars on a regular basis, and we hope that you will tune in weekly to participate. All of our webinars are being posted on our website at 3af.org/corona, along with other resources and helpful links that will help you through this period as well. Today, our topic is the future of live, all about live events, how companies are adapting for the future, and what's currently going on right now. Today, our speakers are Kelvin Chu, Carmen Kwong, and Raghu Alla. Thank you guys so much for joining. I super appreciate it. Hopefully y'all are good at home right now. If you want to, go ahead and just do a quick introduction for yourselves, and we can kind of just jump right in. Carmen, why don't you go first?
Hi, everyone. My name is Carmen. I work at Mirror Digital, and for the last 10 years, I've been a digital marketer working with Fortune 500 brands. Currently working in the multicultural space, so a lot of campaigns targeted to African American, Latinx, and Asian American.
All right, Kelvin, why don't you go next?
Yes. Hi, my name is Kelvin Chu. I'm a music and entertainment veteran of 15 plus years. I've started my career at Interscope Records, Cherry Tree. Currently, I'm an independent that also partners with Warner Records. And currently, I'm also doing artist management. I have a PR firm, and I've worked as an executive producer on an award show called Electronic Music Awards, live streamed in 2015.
Nice. And then Raghu?
Yes, my name is Raghu. I am the founder of PopShift. PopShift is a platform for South Asian artists and creatives in North America, UK, and pretty much anywhere abroad outside of India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, that South Asian space. Primarily focusing on music, art, fashion, and culture. Been doing it for the last couple of years, working with artists at an individual level and also at a group level, doing live events and kind of just engaging the South Asian community with cool, informative events.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. I know that the people at home with 3AF are going to be very interested in this topic. As we've seen, things with live events and concerts, sporting, theater, everything's been changing, I think, day to day. And I think that everybody's really interested to maybe get your opinions. You guys are all from a very specific area in the industry. Carmen, you represent agencies. Kelvin, you represent artists and the label side, and you've also produced an event yourself. And then Raghu, you come from the producer side and putting on these events, especially right now. So I think my first question is, with each of you guys being involved in the way that you are with live events, so during this pandemic, can you maybe just provide some of your thoughts and examples of how you've either you've adapted to this new situation of putting on live events, or how you've seen other companies kind of adapt to this new situation of putting on live events? I think maybe Raghu, you can start, just because I know that you recently just put on Houseful, and would love to hear, one, where did that come from, and what made it so much different than the live events you were putting on before?
Yes, yeah. Previously, we were doing a lot of a live event series called Sessions. We would do this once every 2 months, and we would travel from city to a huge South Asian population, and we try to engage that audience into like a new cool experience visually, and also introducing new artists, or from the art side, displaying cool art, making it as interactive as possible. So like once COVID hit, that kind of got me thinking into, okay, what's the next best thing that we can do to engage the entire community? And we live streams, and just about, I think a month ago, we did our first live stream event. It was I think anywhere It was about 10 hours long, and it had about 66 artists and over 30 plus creatives and influencers being involved in it. Um, it was, and that was, and I feel like that pivot was very important for PopShift to take in this time, especially because there's no other way for us to connect with our audience, or like, have the art, especially from an artist standpoint too. They don't really have a platform to like perform on, or like, have that sort of an audience. Initially, I was kind of skeptical about the whole live stream experience, but I think once we started digging into it, we made it feel like it was more broadcast style. So it was not only music, but we had interludes with influencers and creatives that are not necessarily in the music space, sharing their thoughts, ideas, things they learned during this time. So it was it was a little bit different in terms of approach, but we got to include a lot more artists this time, and a lot more audience to. We were able to get exposure to a lot more audience in such a short period of time, which I feel like through live events it would have taken much longer. Going from city to city and slowly building that. Whereas live stream, I feel like provided that exposure digitally to either one, increase our social media presence and engagement, and then two, during the stream itself, on like, seeing people interact through the chat, sharing that live thing, I think was really, really cool, and really enjoyed doing it. And we're actually about to do a second one due to the overwhelming feedback the first time. So that's kind of, my experience with live events so far.
Nice. That's great. Always a positive thing when you could do another event. Carmen, so full disclosure,
Yeah.
Carmen and I recently worked together on our event that we recently did. And I'm interested from your side, from the agency side, whether or not it was the event that we did or just what you're hearing internally. Would love to know how are brands seeing this new normal of sponsoring live stream events? Is this interesting to them? And even if it's not necessarily something that you guys have been involved in directly, what maybe you've seen like interesting things through the live streams that even you're watching at home.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that nothing will beat an live event. But the way the industry has really pivoted, and really, like Raghu said, it took little to no time to really mobilize everyone compared to a live event. And we've seen that you can have a little bit more intimate setting. You have artists, in their home doing live stream. And so you have a different layer, a different way of interacting with the consumers, with the event goers. So it is a drastic change, but you can have artists from all over the world participate. You have influencers and notable people in the industry that you otherwise can't get in one singular event. I think having everybody schedule the accessibility of everyone having internet connection really ties everything together. And just seeing that, the industry has really taken advantage of technology to meld very well with the coronavirus.
Definitely. Kelvin, so you come from two very interesting backgrounds, because not only do you manage artists and you're part of the talent side, but you've also been a producer before too, but before coronavirus or any of the pandemic. So would love to know from your side, one, how are talent and labels from the music side treating this? Like, is this something that they're just throwing artists at like every single event, or are they still being curated about it? And then secondly, with the event that you put on a couple of years ago, was this ever something that you thought was going to become more of a new normal?
So I'll say this first. This was kind of the biggest revenue generator was always for artists, was always live. And this forced a lot of everyone's hands to really jump into. So on the first side, on the label side, the artist side, everyone's embracing it. I think end of the day, it's like, well, you need content, you need to be out there, you need to be seen. And there's no better way to embrace it. It's just actually they have to live stream. Everyone has to do it. The labels are encouraging it; they're not stopping it. Artists are very much open to it. I think the only challenge, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, is the fact that you don't want to overdo it, because I mean, there's only time. You want to keep it still fresh. However, now on the fact of where I used to produce or I did produce a live streaming award show. Back then, it was a little new. It was a bit, everyone's learning about it. I mean, this is when Twitter actually was still live streaming. Facebook just started their live stream. YouTube was new at it. And this was like 2017, where everybody, what is this? This is cool. I want to put some money into it. And back then, I think this was the future for a lot of us. But what we did notice that there was a little bit of a challenge in terms of like still lacking the actual live experience of people being in that situation and being there versus like kind of watching it on your phone or your computer or even on your TV. But, jump 3 years, we are here now. Technology's gotten better. It's a lot more accessible. Twitch has become a bigger brand, and the pandemic has forced this paradigm shift to move faster. So I think it's like we went from questioning it to like, oh, we really are moving into that space and needing it.
I know, it's strange times.
Yeah.
My next question is, as these events start happening a lot more frequently, or maybe they don't, maybe we just had a period of live events and it adapts into something new, maybe in the next couple of months. But as these continue to happen, this is more from like the brand and marketing side. So maybe Carmen, we can kind of like throw it to you first, and would love to know, Raghu and Kelvin, if you have any opinions about it. But what are some of the best ways that brands and marketers can utilize the live streaming space? Are there clever ideas? If they're going to be, say they were going to maybe do something like a physical activation at like a Comic-Con or an event, what can they do now instead of putting their money into the live event side? They can put it into the digital side, maybe. Carmen, would love to know your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think because this space is so new, we're all still kind of learning some of the ways to align with these live events. From a brand's perspective, you really don't want to push an inauthentic connection. So for example, if you're a chip brand, you don't want to have the artist like pull up a chip and eat it, because that's trying too hard. It becomes a little bit too commercial. But if you have something, in the background, logos, things like that, that would be the best way. And then actually bridging the gap between an artist and a product that maybe they actually use and love, to not really force that brand to call out. I think with the live stream that we did, Dan, McDonald's had really focused on the community heroes aspect of it. And it being APAM, they really sought out different people in the community that were helping. And especially since it was during, the pandemic, they pulled out healthcare partners and highlighted what they were doing in the space, and not focusing on like, hey, go grab a McDonald's burger. We're, sponsoring this live stream. So I think thinking about how to resonate on an emotional level with the audience is what you want to aim for.
I agree. I think it needs to be sensitive, and it shouldn't just be like a direct call out. It needs to, I think, definitely be more of an organic thing, so that people don't think that you're taking advantage of the situation. Raghu, you just recently put on an event. As you look to your future events for yourself, and then again, just as you look at like other events that have been happening, what are like interesting or creative ways that you think that brands can get involved?
Yeah, I think kind of playing off what Carmen was saying about artists being able to interact with the brand, whether it's in the background or especially, if it's like a music company, that's like an easy way to incorporate it into your set, whether it's like headphones that you're using or like the microphone and etc. But I think this also allows for not only is the event happening online, but like as the artist is promoting on their page, this is another way for like brands to get involved from that standpoint too, where brands can not only can work with artists directly, and that artists can feel like they're supporting a brand just as much, on their social platforms, as well as on the digital live stream. So I feel like it's like it opens up a new way for brands to work with artists just beyond, instead of just focusing on social or the live stream, it can create different ways. Also, I found that, our live stream was like about 8 hours long. I know you guys did a similar length. But I feel like brands can really own segments and really put, if they're looking to push a certain message, or, have a certain type of theme. I do feel like as we're doing more live streams, artists are going to get more creative with how they present themselves. I think, like it started off with just a camera in their bedroom, with a mic. But like, I think as we're doing more and more of the thing, artists will get more creative. So, if a brand does want to really own like a 30-minute segment and, theme it and push a message, whether it's like, whether it's relating to like the frontline workers, or, like the Black Lives Matter topic, it's like, I feel like it opens that door for, brands to get a little more involved and feel like they can own a part of the festival also. So.
Nice. And then Kelvin, from either the label side or the talent side, how have brands, either through the artists that you represent or from ones that you've seen, how have they gotten creative with I guess, having brands organically come onto live streams for themselves?
That's a great question. I think everyone's trying to put their thinking cap on so much. And the one thing that's interesting is I represent a very unique artist name. I don't know if everyone has seen him before. His name is Sean Wasabi, who a lot of time makes music out of inanimate objects. Like he has a Instagram following, TikTok, and it just goes viral just because of that. I know he did one recently for the Wash the Hate campaign, and he used a bathroom faucet and made a whole entire song out of it. So I think what it is a lot of brands are just looking for individuals and just thinking outside the box now. Because I mean, it's like, like Carmen says, like, how do you make it feel like it's authentic? Maybe, and to everyone's point, maybe it is just having something sit there. Maybe it is just like an earbud, or maybe it's not so blatant like a logo on a chest, but it's just kind of like something that just incorporated that they could just put into whatever they're doing with. On the label side and on the artist talent side, I mean, we're always looking as just like what just makes sense, what doesn't feel like it's forced, and it's kind of one of those things where it's whatever makes just perfect sense. We're kind of in a interesting space right here where you can make it like as much as like the couch that's behind me right now. And maybe it's like, I can say, well, where'd you get that couch from? It's like IKEA, right? Or I'll tell you something interesting. A mattress man reached out to us and they wanted us to do something with that. And it wasn't necessarily gonna be a live stream, but it was just making a social media video out of it and creating a moment. So I think everyone's just thinking out of the box. And I think we're all just open to it. I don't know where and how this can keep going, but I'm very open and curious, and that's what we're here for, and especially in this day and age.
I think it's all about giving whoever can cut through the noise. There's just so much. Everybody's definitely consuming media just so much right now, just because there are a large percentage of people that are just at home. And I know for me personally, my screen time on my phone's gone up X-fold since this all started. And so I think that it's finding ways to be able to cut through the noise and having your brand be seen. So if it's a really clever thing with the mattress or your couch company, and they can figure out a really funny way of being able to do that, more power to them. So speaking of, I guess, just people consuming information differently during this time frame. I think that we as Asian Americans, Asian Pacific Americans, can all agree that I think that we do consume media in a different way. And so because this is 3AF, would love to know just generally from your sides, either firsthand what you've kind of seen maybe through your friends or people that you're aware of or studies. If you've seen anything in especially right now, how people are consuming media. Have you noticed that a lot more of your friends right now or people are using Twitch now more often? Are they using YouTube more often? Have they put down their phones? Are they just watching their TV? And so how have you found that like Asian Americans are consuming either these live stream shows or just media in general, maybe a little bit differently during the pandemic? With that, maybe I'll start with Raghu. Raghu?
Yeah, I think Twitch has definitely come up a lot more. Before I don't think as many of the South Asian audience that we directly cater to probably have never used Twitch or used it only for like gaming purposes. But I think now a lot more shows are being weekly or monthly being shown on Twitch. So I do think a lot more people are adapting. I think from a consumption standpoint, like I think a lot more people like watching, being able to access these on their phones readily, whenever they want, or even just playing it on their TV as kind of just like, in the background as they're doing other things. So it's kind of, that's kind of a pattern that I've seen a lot of, based on my experience.
Nice. Kelvin, what about for you?
I mean, just to touch on Raghu's point too, yeah, Twitch has definitely been a big thing. I know YouTube Live is making a big push. Something that's new that just started coming into my radar is Facebook. They're getting very heavy into like the video gaming space, and they're also trying to push their live aspect. And I think with this pandemic, everyone's moving and recognizing that social media, these social platforms and all these other platforms, however you want to identify them as, are extremely valuable now, especially since we are kind of relying on them more than we ever have. So, as somebody who has talent or works with people that have a lot of talent, we are looking at these constantly, like, what can we do? How can we create? Maybe it's creating a new show, or maybe it's creating some new content, like telling our clients or artists to look at alternative, we talked about gaming. Maybe they start gaming, which some of my clients have. One of my other clients, I've incorporated a cooking / music show on a Sunday, on every Sunday show. So it's just taking advantage of what's in front of you and being creative with it, basically.
And then Carmen.
Definitely you see a lot more programming, a lot more content that is available on all of these different platforms. And I've noticed a huge just increase in sharing, like, hey, have you seen this, just in conversation, in like the trade magazine or the trade emails. You see a lot of people figuring out how to make this extended past your initial streaming audience, and then bringing more people in. So once you have that data piece, you can really figure out, okay, where is this going? Of course, this is all very new, so we're being made outliers, but as we get more data, put on more live streams, we'll kind of have a more accurate trend analysis for these.
And I want to touch on something what Carmen just said that brought into my head. An interesting thing that kind of came between, like, a paradigm between like connecting video games, streaming, and almost just kind of this whole live aspect is something I came across called animal talking. I don't know if everybody saw it. It's a cross between someone utilized Animal Crossing as like as a talk show where their avatar would show up there, but they would film it, put it on YouTube, and it would just be like, it's like an alternative to like late night talk show, but using, what everyone's kind of doing right now, like playing video games, on streaming on YouTube. Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. And the person who wrote it, the person who's behind it is like a writer from Star Wars too as well. So I think it's one of the most brilliant things.
No, it's been very smart, actually. Yeah, Animal Crossing's been kind of killing it over the last couple of months. I know a lot of people have been trying to find creative ways. There's a friend of mine that's been doing like a comedy show, and so like kind of a similar format where they'll film themselves. They made a comedy club in the game, and then I haven't played it, but then people will show up and they'll film it, and then they'll dub themselves over doing their stand-up. So I think it's a really creative way. Actually, you know what? We're just going off on a tangent. Kelvin, you like kind of honed in on just an interesting thing. Carmen and Raghu, have you guys seen anybody do something like, what's been the most creative use of technology during this time? Anything kind of similar to what Kelvin had brought up about like the gaming talk show? Doesn't have to be brand or anything related. I just think it's like kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I guess that's the most creative that I've heard. I do think I do think a lot more people are creating content, though. I think the focus has been to get creative with, creating content, making yourself more relatable now with everything going on. So I do see a ton of different shows on IGTV, just, even just like Instagram Live coming up. So I've noticed a lot more people are active in the space. Creativity wise, I think that what Kelvin mentioned was probably the most creative that I've heard.
Carmen, what about you? Anything super out there?
I would have to agree. I don't consume a lot of, I'm on the screen basically 8-9 hours a day. So when I'm on my downtime, I tend not to do that. But yeah, what Kelvin said, a lot of the live streams that have been going on, such as Project Blue Marble, those have been a very creative use of like bridging the gap and bringing a lot of people together.
Very cool. I think people are just going to get more and more creative. I'm kind of excited to see where media goes. Okay, so my next question, speaking of the technology, and perhaps this is more of a Raghu question, just because you put it on recently, but do you have any best practices or like what was in doing the live stream, was there a particular platform or a backend system that you would recommend people using in order to be able to put together? Because I think that doing these live streams on Zoom aren't necessarily the most effective way. So like, what was the like? What's a good backend system or anything that you've learned?
Yeah, I mean, we used OBS, which is a broadcasting software. I think like pretty popularly used for like all kinds of live streams, YouTube, I think Twitch. People that are on Twitch use it a lot. I think that's my favorite so far. It's easy to use, and I'm able to, like from like an operation standpoint, it's relatively quick to switch from one scene to another. It has, you can plug in multiple different camera angles and stuff like that. So that's what we use, and I really enjoyed it. I think one thing that I did notice is kind of some artists are really prepared in terms of like recording their live set and stuff like that, but I do think others do need some direction. So I think just having some sort of guidelines that you can send artists or like do some tests with them prior to the actual stream definitely helps make it run smoother.
Nice. Kelvin and Carmen, I don't know if you guys have any specific opinions about that, but are there any softwares or anything that you're aware of that kind of like Raghu mentioned that people are using?
From a brand perspective, I think brands love to see what the ROI is. They want to see all the backend data. So any platform that allows them to show or garner information about how many people are watching, if there is a fall off period, how often and how long they come back on, is hugely important just to see how effective their campaign is. I don't know what that platform is, but a lot of companies, I think, need to be more data that way.
Yeah, no, that's actually that's very good.
That's interesting. Not for me. Yeah, good to know. Yeah, it's funny. Like 2017, when we broadcasted a live award show, I mean, it was pretty. It was pretty massive. We actually used a broadcast truck, which is kind of funny. With a lot of yeah. So from then to see what you could use now, I know some of my clients, and what we always suggest for a lot of people is like use Zoom. I know there's another OBS, is like Raghu said, and StreamYard is another one I've seen that's really good too as well. That's probably the most easy, like at home to do for any DIY type of situation. But I think yeah, I also was involved with you guys on Identity Fest. I know you guys use a different system, and that was kind of interesting to see. And yeah, there's others out there, but as far as just the three I think I suggested were the most common and pretty. I think most people can figure it out with just about a few hours of just kind of tinkering.
Nice.
Yeah. And I think what we end up doing is using influencers to amplify the program. So I think through Facebook and Instagram, you get a little bit more detailed in the metrics. So you're able to boost the post. So you know that there is a guaranteed number of impressions or number of eyeballs that you get in front of. So that's another way to make sure that for brands, you are getting the reach that you need.
I want to mention this point about platforms too. Just so everyone noted, there's a licensing situation with Twitch. So if you were ever to broadcast there and record that show, and you have music that's owned from master rights and publishers, it's going to be very hard to clear that. So YouTube is actually a more preferred platform where there are rights already in place. So, and there's metrics. You could go back and look at metrics too as well, especially if you have your YouTube. What's the proper term? I think if you after you have a certain amount of subscribers. Mm-hmm. So
that's good to know.
That's a really, really good point. Yeah, I do know that, especially for a lot of live streams, like when we were doing Identity, and Raghu, maybe you had the same experience for what you were doing. But yeah, the rights to the music was a big thing, and making sure that we clear all of the songs ahead of time. There was a DJ that was spinning during one of the sets, and we had to clear all of his songs before we can go live on the Twitch account just to make sure that we were good. So even if it's just a live stream, even if it's just a one-time thing, it still definitely kind of impacts what you guys are going to be doing. Great point.
Yeah, on YouTube, I didn't, like you can, as long as you're live streaming, you can play any kind of music. But once you stop the stream, that's where it gets blocked. On YouTube, especially, that's what I've noticed from my experience.
Mm-hmm. Because it the stream up.
Yeah.
And people could go back and access it and be able to hear whatever that song was.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, good point. All right, guys. Well, we're actually getting to the tail end of this. We'll end with one question. I would love to just know from your sides. We'll just call it the future of live. And so we're talking about what's currently going on right now. Are there any thoughts as and I'm not talking about like 10 years in the future. I'm talking about like maybe 1 year in the future. How do you potentially see stuff either going back to live or maybe not going back to live? Any thoughts on that? Carmen, we'll start with you.
I don't know when this pandemic is going to be over or when people feel safe to go out again. But I definitely think that there's nothing like being live. The energy of the crowd, of the artists is incomparable on, live versus on a live stream. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see in the next year what that future is going to be. I mean, we're changing up week by week and there's new things that are coming out. So we'll see. We're all learning together.
Kelvin, what about you?
It's very interesting. I mean, we fast forwarded a lot. I mean, I'll speak upon from the music side, and I'm going to touch upon the sports side because I actually have some athlete clients too as well from a PR perspective, that a firm that I co-own. On the music side, I mean, look, this is a huge impact for many of us. I think yesterday they just announced that Coachella and Stagecoach is officially canceled till 2021. And for the music side, the live experience is one of the biggest revenue generators. And even if you were just to do one show compared to like a 50 tour date show, I mean, that is like it could be even 10, you could only make maybe even a lucky 10% of what you would make, if you were just to just do some estimates, let's per se like 50 tour dates, let's say you make 100,000 per show for some of these major artists, you're not going to make, you can't replicate it 50 times to make that same amount, unfortunately. But does kind of fast forward us in terms of like accepting and how do we like really be creative and how do we like create like some more like content experiences for the fan. So that's a positive thing. Now on the sports side, the interesting is that the rise of esports kind of create an interesting concept for a lot of sports team and athletes to start recognizing like, well, how do you consume that? The live experience of being at a game is totally like an experience in itself, and people will pay thousands and thousands of dollars. Obviously, you see a ticket for a Super Bowl, see tickets for some of these like big games where like LeBron James is playing like a big game, or etc. Right? So now that we're moving into this new shift of live streaming and how we consume it, it's going to be basically like, oh, you're going to have better camera angles. We're going to figure out better ways to incorporate all these different behind the scenes, or however we can look at basically, sorry if I'm like losing a little bit on the sports. I'm not super familiar about it because that's something that, but I just know that it's a totally different. We're looking at the future now, especially since there's going to be no fans coming up, and they're gonna experiment even more. So it'll be interesting to see, especially from all those angles.
Nice. Raghu?
Yeah, I think like Carmen was saying, there's no experience like a real live experience of like in the crowd, the artists, and like the atmosphere. But I do feel like now that we are more accepting of live streams, I do think that could eventually, when we do transition to even if it's limited number in concert, maybe we can open up live stream as like an additional revenue source where people can buy tickets at a discounted rate is, and that could be a part of the show as well, especially with like music festivals, like bigger events. I know like not every small every show can do that. I do think like with festivals and stuff like that, I do think having like a live stream aspect to it will be really beneficial, only because just look at the exposure from like all over the world is super cool, and I do think that's an opportunity. Yeah.
Great. Well, hopefully again, just everything's changing all the time, so hopefully we find more direction in that soon. On top of hearing about Stagecoach and Coachella being canceled, they just announced that Comic-Con is going to be fully online this year. And so I'm actually extremely interested to see how Comic-Con, because it's going to be open to everybody, not just the people that bought tickets for Comic-Con. So it'll be cool to see how they adapt to doing their panels. They're still going to have like the marketplace, which is one of their biggest offerings. When people go, they just want to go and shop. And so they're still going to be able to offer that. They're still going to do their cosplay contests. So I'm like very interested to see from a pop culture standpoint how they kind of adapt to a live stream format. And I know that more things like that are going to happen soon. Anyway, so that was my last question. This concludes today's webinar. I want to thank sincerely Raghu, Carmen, and Kelvin for joining us today. I really appreciate them, their time, and their expertise. I also want to remind our viewers to visit the 3AF website at 3af.org, and especially go visit that for our resource page that we think are going to be helpful for small businesses right now surviving COVID. In addition, we here at 3AF need your help. We've created a 3AF GoFundMe page. And so if you want to help us continue to serve the community, please go and donate. It's on our website as well. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Dan, International Secret Agents. Super appreciate your time. Bye.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.